While filming a couple of quick shots of a local old cemetery near where Yvonne lives, a few shots within a few hours, which is all it should have taken, turned into a 3-day journey for us. I started creating this new series for my YouTube channel for all the new members seeking the basics in spirituality and metaphysics. The journey Yvonne and I took while filming for this series was an unexpected surprise and was way too precious not to document for you guys. As we were filming, I quickly noticed the irony in what was happening around us. It just proved my point in making this very first video for this series. I titled it, "Are My Loved Ones Okay and Are They Still Around Me Watching Over Me?" This is a question I get quite often from many people around the world, so I sought to do a very first video answering this question and more. We weren't expecting the surprise twist and gaining few shots from the cemetery and church, but I would love for you guys to take this journey with us and watch how spirituality and the spiritual evidence unravels before you.
Okay, watch what you
Most of you know I'm not a churchgoer. I'm very aware of a deeper knowledge surrounding the topic of religion and churches, so I don't attend. I went to this one because it was Yvonne's favorite, and she wanted to show me around first before taking me to the old cemetery, which apparently had 2 parts to it. I was so taken in by the art and creativity of this church, mainly because it reminded me of King Henry's Hall, which I was a part of in my life as Queen Boleyn. But I also was very compelled to light a candle for all souls on the other side from the living on this side. It was my way of honoring them in a sense. Spirit knew that I would be drawn into this section over here because of the red color. It's my favorite color. So I was completely enthralled with this area. Yvonne was immediately drawn to the upstairs, so I was called to go up with her and check out what all the fuss was about. These steps were a little tight, and I'm afraid of heights, so it was quite a job trying to film and go up at the same time without tripping. And you'll see at the very top I do almost trip, but I regained my composure. But when I went to the edge, that trip up the steps was well worth it because the view was completely breathtaking. Standing near the altar, I understood the role that needs to take place and how important the messages you bring to those listening weighs down on your shoulders. You want the messages to be loving and pure of heart, which is why I feel churches have taken advantage of this opportunity to share true messages and not ones that were created to control others. Which is why Spirit had me leave a loving message for the priest of this church. He would have received it this past Saturday, and I hope that it put a smile on his face. And I put it right where he immediately would see it, right on the altar. As I approached the podium, I noticed this passage, and it talked about Thanksgiving and being grateful and living bread and continuing on through spirit and faith unshaken. It's exactly what we're trying to prove here with these new videos. Could this be divine intervention on the videos? Having me make this documentary on how we stumbled upon the journey that we took through this experience? I don't know, but I'm going to take the ride, and I hope you guys do too. It was quite the adventure, and I want to thank Spirit for allowing us to take this journey and to do what we were able to do. So you keep standing in front of the camera. See?
Oh, I see it. I see it.
They keep standing. See? No. Oh, they did it again.
Are they standing at the door?
No, they keep standing like in my camera.
She came down.
I think. Oh, that's I have to mention here that this sound was so loud and right next to us to the left that it made Yvonne jump.
She has orange hair, so I'm trying to find anything orange that pops up.
I later state that it was orangey red, but we didn't document that part, so I'm mentioning it here to let you guys know it was orange red.
What era is she from? 1900s. Like 1920, 1930. Oh, I know her. She's so outdoor. Was she an organist? No. No. Just a professional. She likes here because it's silent. We can all meet her. What's her first name? Margaret. Is it Margaret Ann or Ann Margaret? Something like that.
At this point, we're hearing a lot of activity upstairs, so we get closer to the back of the church to see if we can catch any of it. This is when things get really weird and really interesting.
She says she's buried right outside. Right next to us.
Right now, the cemetery beside the church.
Yeah. We could go out and look.
Yeah, we'll go out and see if we can find her.
Okay.
What's her name again?
Margaret Ann or Ann Margaret?
Okay.
I can't make sense of, like, it goes flip-flops.
Okay.
Okay, let's go find out. Okay, now see, I'm not getting anything here. It's like more in this middle section, like not up here, like more. Okay, like
Straight ahead.
yeah. Okay, let me go look at this one. Oh, it fell over. Rachel? What's that one say? Michael Carly? Is not have. That's weird. You don't have names, you have initials. It's so weird. What's this one? Christina, look. Margaret. Oh my god, it was foul. Margaret.
The date's right.
Let me see. Late 1800s, early 19. Yeah.
1938.
That's crazy. So where's Anne? Because there's no.
Doesn't have her middle name. It's her middle name. But
Did they put middle names on these things?
Some did, some didn't. But she was going back and forth from Margaret to Anne to Margaret.
Margaret Fresh, Margaret McFresh, maybe Margaret McFresh. But this says McGow.
But that was the mother and father. It's a whole family tombstone.
Okay, mother, his wife Mary, father James, Margaret.
Oh my God! Look! Oh my God! Look!
Anne, what the freak? That's late 1800s too.
Yes, it's the whole family.
Okay,
That's
so
why
she's distinguishing herself away from maybe other Margarets in the thing by giving me Anne.
And
To show me two names on one, so it separates her from all the other ones.
And what are the odds? Those two names
On the same
tombstone.
The first thing you notice on this tombstone is Anne, even though it says Fanny. But the F and the IE are kind of faded, so as soon as you turn the corner, all you see is Anne.
Well, what are
But
the odds
it's,
you get
yeah, I know.
Well, she was going back and forth. She would say Margaret Ann
And Margaret.
So which was it? Now we know it's a whole family. It was a sibling. And was that her then trying to distinguish her from any other Margaret in the...
I'm wondering if there's another Margaret. I guess we could go look, find out.
Okay.
I want to speed through this section because it was so much land that we had to get through, and none of the names had Margaret. It was mostly Thomas's and Mary's, and we split off. I went off to the left, Yvonne went off to the right, and we kind of met in the middle. And then Yvonne stumbles upon a tombstone with the name Margaret towards the back, the very back, and right dead center in the middle of all these tombstones.
What's that one?
It's hard to make out. It's so like
That's Margaret. Yeah.
it's a Margaret.
It's hard to make out the M-A-R, but there's the G-A-R-E-T. Do you see any ants on it?
I see nothing. I don't think.
I think that's just Margaret.
And
It's hard to make out, but that's a man. And there's nothing on this side. It has to be that one.
It has to be. What are the odds? Margaret and Anne, the name Anne on the same tombstone.
That's got to be her. I'm convinced that's her. Yep, I'm convinced that's her.
We checked every tombstone in here.
And it's funny how she's been making your ear ring
Yes. Oh my gosh.
anytime she comes around.
I get the goosebumps.
Well,
and
you
my
ask her a
earring.
question and she makes your ear ring.
She makes my earring every time. Yes.
We'll have to come back up and see if she does stuff again.
Okay.
After finding the other Margaret's tombstone, we packed up and headed to my car, which, by the way, is always locked. When we opened the doors, there was a special surprise sitting on Yvonne's seat.
Why is there a splendid packet in here? Why is there a splendid packet in here? What is happening? It looks old and beat up. Ew, what? Wait, that doesn't even look like a normal Splenda. What is that? What is that? That doesn't even look like the Splenda we have now.
Put your spidey senses on where to come
Okay,
from.
I'm gonna have to look up Splenda and look at the packaging. I think, oh, that's what it is. She says you're sweet. You're so sweet. Oh, Yvonne, that looks ancient as shit.
Aww.
Do you know what I mean? It's ancient like her.
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah.
And look at the red.
Well, that's the thing. Splenda packaging doesn't look like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
It's so pretty. Okay, so this is the bottom one, right? And then there's a...
Yeah, that's the bottom one. And then we have the top one.
Okay. Where do I turn?
Up here further.
Oh. Why did I feel like I had to turn there?
It's just to a house. And you don't want to turn this one. Go up to the next one. Right here's where you want to turn.
The one thing I've noticed about grief and the human experience is how completely disconnected and alone one can become. It can make you feel invisible and withdrawn, as if there's an invisible blanket between you and the world, as well as keeping you from seeing the other side of existence in the afterlife. This battle of thoughts within the mind seem to take over, and you feel your loved one is completely lost to the realm of death. The focus of one who is grieving the loss of a loved one can cloud their mind with questions that can create more pain. Questions like, I hope my mom is okay. I hope my grandfather didn't suffer in the end. Does my dad still suffer and hurt from the pain that was caused him? Did my grandmother know I was there when she passed? These kinds of questions and these kinds of thinking can dig a deeper hole of depression for someone in the sorrow of grief. I want you, the listener, to fully understand the process of death, not through the eyes of a human perception, but rather the eyes of a soul. The creation of what was brought forth and built only for Earth's purpose and understanding was simply encapsulating the soul so it may be protected from the harshness and heavy density of Earth's frequency. the frequency you learn from while you are here interacting with people and experiencing events and situations of learning. Have you ever had someone sit on you? That heaviness of their body causing you to desire a release so you could move and breathe again? Their weight caused a confinement to the body, and it kept it from doing what it wanted to do, which was simply to get the person up and allow them to feel less heavy. This is such a great example of density on Earth. There is a type of dense heaviness that keeps humans from excelling to their fullest potential. The soul feels confined and heavy within the body, but once it's released, it can breathe in the life force once again. When a soul breaks free from the vessel of Earth's teachable moments, it no longer holds any earthly experience of physical pain and suffering. Your loved one is free to feel light and joyful and serene, free from any earthly pain that it may have learned while it was here on Earth. As I walk this cemetery, Spirit softly shows me the sacred lives of these many souls. Souls who decided to come to Earth to learn from its many lessons, just as you made the same exact choice. Once that learning is complete, your journey of those life lessons are then accomplished and placed into a percentage of growth. When you depart and find your soul welcomed back into the existence of heaven, you can then decide to learn more from those lessons or venture on new ones. But your goal as a spirit energy is to complete all lessons at the percentage that is acceptable for your soul's graduation. As we approached the cemetery, I had gotten some really good shots in, but there was one particular spot I kept getting drawn to, kept taking pictures of. So I laid down in the grass and started taking some shots. I noticed right away that it was a mausoleum that had brick door instead of normal steel or metal. I immediately thought about that old vampire movie called Dracula, where Lucy becomes a vampire, and Van Helsing and his men are in the mausoleum waiting for Lucy to come back to her grave so they can kill her. She walks down these stone steps with a crying baby in her arms ready to feed, and it was that brick door that just conjured up the memory of that movie. I jokingly, of course, said in my head, wonder if there's a vampire woman buried in there. I didn't really think nothing of it, since no one was around and Yvonne was off on her own looking around the old graves. I finished taking pictures, but had to investigate this mausoleum further, of course. As I'm standing by the brick door, I could hear a man on the other side speaking Latin. It was faint, so I couldn't really make out more than one or two words, or even a full phrase. When we got back to Yvonne's house, we told her husband Bob, who spent an hour helping us find the translation to this word. After an hour of no avail to find the translation to this word, ebesible, we were able to put a post up, and Carlo Cervello answered and said that the word in Latin meant drinkable. Was the spirit inside the tomb joking with me?
Speaking in Latin? Ebesible? But it's a whole phrase. I'm gonna see if I get more. But he knocked twice. Like inside, it echoed. That's great. I wish I could have had the camera up.
I know.
After encountering the spirit speaking Latin to me, we decided to walk around the cemetery a little bit more to see what other spirits would like to speak. That's when I found this. After finding this unique feather, which is always a sign that spirit or angels are near, I was being pulled to the back corner of the woods where this unique single gravestone sat. I was overcome by warm feelings of love and gratitude. This intrigued my senses to want to know more. We ended up coming back on the third day to speak to Nicholas, through the cards to show his words forming on paper instead of only through my thoughts and my voice. I knew he was the one who showed me the feather.
Yes, Nicholas has been talking to me. We're back. I can't stop thinking about him. He's in my mind all the time. His feather, I wasn't on top here, so I was like, oh, the feather's gone, but it was it was almost like somebody tucked it like ever so slightly under here so it wouldn't go anywhere. I wanted to communicate with Nicholas because we've been drawn to come here. This is our 3rd day here, and we decided to come back again. And I don't know why I went to the animal cards, so we're gonna see if Nicholas
I
wants.
think the feather was a good indication.
Yep, that I didn't put 2 together.
Yep.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, 22.
Uh-huh.
That's my number. I love that there's a heart
I know.
around it.
He was much loved.
He was loved. 48. Wow, that's young. Okay, so let's see if he says anything on the cards. Sometimes I do this just to kind of give them a confirmed voice through the physical. Omens. Bird. Feather. That's the first card he went with.
Look at the feathers on that one.
I know. It almost looks like that one there. Urgency. I think I'm getting a sense of what he's trying to show me. That's so funny that this feather kind of looks like the feathers on this owl.
Yep.
I do get that he died quick. There's something with his right ear. Tenacity. I feel like he was very slick, cunning at what he did. Like, whatever job he was in, he seemed professional, but he outfought everybody else like a chess game.
Mm-hmm.
He's now finding direction on the other side. He's adapting to his soul's calling of what he was supposed to do, or what he's supposed to do. And he's enjoying our communication. I sensed he was sick and something hit him hard and quick. And he was just gone. What I get from him now is almost American Indian, because I'm getting like lots of animals and feathers and chanting and like smoke, like sage smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting all that with him now. And he walks with a fox.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a fox always right next to him. I wonder if he'll give us a sign. I'm wondering if he'll give us something while we're sitting here. I'm asking him if he can bring like a crow or something like above us.
Into the trees.
Something. Like I can hear birds over there, but they're far off. I'm talking like over here, like behind us. As I'm saying that, I pull the premonition card, which means he will. Like that's a before it happens. I've been so completely pulled to his grave. It's nothing but that feather in my head at all times. And he's really dashing. He's really good looking. He's got this chestnut brown hair and these hazel eyes. I pulled the omens card again. I just shuffled and I got the omens card again. Because of the feather, the bird, the feather that led me here.
That's wild.
That's twice. You saw me shuffle.
I saw
don't
you
have any
shuffle.
cards. See, those birds stopped. So I'm wondering if he's going to try to attempt it. He quiets all the other birds and maybe places one behind us. Did you hear that? It sounded like something came up behind you.
Huh.
That was weird. It sounded like an animal came up behind you. Yeah, but there's nothing there.
Nicholas did leave us an animal noise. Let's take another listen to that.
Did you hear that? It sounded like something came up behind you.
Huh.
This is Nicholas's way of letting us know that he is with us and answering all our questions and showing me exactly who he is in connection to animals, since we're using the animal cards, and his sign to me was the feather.
And what?
Don't you hear it? It sounds like a dove. But it's fake.
I heard it. I just heard it.
Yeah.
That's our sign from Nicholas.
That's what I've
I
been
asked him
hearing.
for the bird behind us.
I've been hearing that.
This was so very cool of Nicholas to do for us, to show us he was with us. This made me extremely happy. Obviously, you can see on my face. I wished Nicholas the greatest forward motion for his soul, and we went on our merry way after he showed us this sign. So, thank you to Nicholas for showing proof that he was with us.
I did ask for a bird
Yes, you did.
behind us, and what better bird to have than a dove? And we've been seeing doves. I saw one at the shop after doing this. Like, it's crazy. And you barely ever see doves. They're not something you normally see all the time.
I decided to head back to the tomb of the spirit who was speaking Latin, who quickly showed me his life as a priest. I was captivated by his use of communication with me. I felt he was hiding something important about himself by speaking to me in another language. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had spirits speak to me in their native language before, but this way just seemed off. His energy was much more sinister and mysterious. I was giving him another chance to present himself through other means of expression in our last visit to his grave.
This is the mausoleum for the Latin guy, the Latin priest. And we're going to see if he says anything through the cards. That's exactly what I was getting.
Oh my God.
Yep. Promiscuity, malice, independence away from the light, vulnerability, finding people that are vulnerable that he can do things to, which is why I feel a lot of guilt around him. Isn't it interesting how the cards are extremely different?
Oh my God, they're
from
totally
down here
different.
to up here, right?
Oh my word. Like you have no idea.
Yeah, he disguised himself into something he wasn't. Like, kind of like the priest outfit was like a disguise to hide who he really was.
He was a priest of the church right down below here. And then for whatever reason, they brought in another one. They didn't say why. They brought in another priest and he left.
Yeah, I know why.
They didn't say why.
Yeah, I just found out why. Molestations. What does the... He did a lot of bad stuff, you know. He upset the wrong people, from what I'm gathering. Somebody turned him in. I'm pulling the same cards again. And he said he quietly went away, even though it angered him.
Yeah, I wondered why he left. And then another, it just like he was just gone. And then wherever he left to go to, he had passed. And then he already had this erected, and this is where they buried him.
Yeah. It's making sense now why he's talking in Latin, because he's ashamed of what he did. He has a lot of guilt, so he won't talk in English to me. It's a different way of hiding your shame. I've never had a spirit talk to me in a different language, and that every time I talk to them, usually they'll start out with a language and then turn to English just to show me what nationality they were, but they wouldn't keep doing it. You know what I mean? He keeps doing it every time I show up. So I was down here and I kept looking. I was like, the brick of the mausoleum reminded me of the vampire movie Dracula, where she comes down with the baby crying and they go to kill her off because she was going to eat the baby. If you're thinking more along the lines of elite and drinking blood
And molestation,
yeah, it's very possible that he was joking. He made it very easily for him to joke about it because he was involved in it. I mean, why have all, I mean, I'm laying down in the grass just trying to get a really good picture of this. Why, of all things that he could have said to me in Latin, I was just like, I was actually kind of embarrassed that he caught me thinking about that, about his tune. I was the embarrassed one.
And I thought it was kind of funny that he was joking with me about it because he heard my thoughts. I put a post up because I couldn't get that app to work. Bob was trying everything to look it up. We tried, translations on Google. It was weird how nothing was coming up. Carlo Cervello reaches out to the team and he said it means drinkable. And I'm like, my face dropped. I was like, oh my God, he caught me thinking about his tomb being a vampire tomb.
So where's he at in his learning now? By the cards that you looked at, not show you.
He's not necessarily saying he's sorry, but he definitely feels guilt. It's almost like he's still working on that self-awareness of, okay, I feel bad, but how do I change that energy to forgiveness more than, self-awareness. There's a difference between self-awareness and actually forgiving because of the self-awareness, you know what I mean? While communicating with the Latin priest, I felt very confined by his energy, as if I was being held down and couldn't express myself properly. The reason I wanted to ask him so many questions within my mind is because I felt two different frequencies near his tomb. A combative, conflicting tug-of-war of energy. Before leaving the second day, I was told in English to not return, because this was his land. This entity that spoke to me from the priest's tomb was frustrated that I was performing sound therapy for these souls who have been laid to rest here. He despised this action against his land. I was uplifting the souls by sound healing that they began flocking to my area and surrounding Yvonne and I in numbers. You can see this on the video because I am out of focus and blurred. Their energy was all around us. Souls do not despise souls. Dark entities, however, do. They express themselves in much darker ways. When a soul expresses love and kindness towards others, entities are disgusted by this action and use energies of hatred and combative taunting against its victim. That's when I knew exactly what I was dealing with. The second it changed the communication to English and became combative and ugly with me, I knew exactly how to remove it from this sacred ground. Just like I do with all houses and buildings that I come in contact with. Each entity is different, and each removal is unique. Entities will use the disguise of a soul to continue the taunting they are using against a human. They will make you believe a soul is being mean, rude, and scary. They disguise themselves as souls that were once human, like the soul of this priest. Trust me when I say entities are not very smart, because it didn't take me long to figure this one out.
Father McHugh leaves Wilmore.
Father McHugh leaves Wilmore.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so then.
Wait, do you want in the camera?
Hi. Okay, I'm sorry.
What happened? He doesn't want you to read it?
I've already read it once.
Okay, pull it up again.
Do you want me to read everything?
Mm-hmm. Does it say why he left?
Nope. It just says that he bought the large pipe organ at a cost. He also planted an osage hedge along the old cemetery at the road. Canary, rector of St. Agnes's Church, Father McHugh was tendered and accepted the vacant rectorate and severed his connections with St. Bartholomew's Parish, December 31st, 1895. severed for a time, but when his long and useful life shall have ended, it is his intention that his remains shall rest in the mausoleum in the new St. Bartholomew Cemetery erected by him several years ago. He built this cemetery. That just proved what you just said earlier, that he kept saying, I own this land. That's because he built this cemetery. The priest that came after him, his tombstone's right there. So let's go to...
Since the priest owns the land, the entity convincing others, as well as myself, that he is the priest, in turn believes he owns the land now.
Reverend James Tannehy succeeded Father McHugh after an interim of about 6 months. He died after a short illness, and on that day of his funeral, the church was crowded as it had not been since the day of its dedication. That means they liked him. Mm-hmm. They liked him, but for whatever reason, he died very early. Let's put it this way, he didn't have enough time here.
Yeah.
It's like something good finally came to the church.
It died off.
And he died. So I'm getting rid of his energy, thinking he owns this land.
Well, I have to work on it. Yeah.
How?
Well, I don't want to go into details, but I have my way of removing dark energy like that, but we'll have to work on the cemetery itself to release it.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Mm.
The entity now knows that I know what it's been up to, and it doesn't like that.
It just makes me think how many other cemeteries and churches are covered under that authority.
The good priest.
Yeah.
And look where he's buried.
Oh, I know. I know. Isn't that always how it happens? Think about it. So the bad energy always gets the look at me. But see, that's the thing. The better you are, and the more pure your soul is, you don't want one like this.
No.
Because you'll always be remembered for your actions, not the ending.
I guarantee the parishioners did that. He himself built this.
Yes, because it's a look at me.
Yes.
Souls on the other side are just as important to me as the ones I am helping here in this realm. The more I get to know them in this physical body, the more I view them as family. Take Nicholas, for example. Getting to know Nicholas for these past 3 days has brought me to a great insight into his life that I would have otherwise never known. I now feel I've made a good friend in him. I can call upon his energy whenever I feel, and just have his great wisdom around when I need it. I never used to dream of feathers before, but I find myself waking up remembering a big feather being placed in my right hand, just like I did the day I picked it up off the ground. I am now very much aware of when he would like to speak to me. He either sends me a dove or a feather to grab my attention that his presence is near. Yvonne and I will continue to visit this land and remove all unwanted entities that do not belong here. Their contract of nuisance and trauma is now expired. Which, now come to think about it, doesn't surprise me that my energy somehow made it to this specific cemetery. It's most likely why the events led up to this very moment. Spirit understands my abilities and brought me here to do a job that is a huge part of my mission. It's no wonder I was drawn to this specific tomb, his tomb, upon my arrival. The energy force of darkness centered in that one spot, and my light force shined bright light on it. Now the real work begins.
What else do we need to do to get rid of, or
just keep doing what I'm doing? Isn't that weird? Isn't putting the cards away? I noticed this. And what have we been dealing with? What's the land here? Isn't that weird? That's the last card. Caution.
No caution.
I got this.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it.
Yeah. It's pretty, isn't it?
Thank you for watching my special video blog, which didn't end up the way I was originally expecting, but nothing in my life ever does. You are never on a watch or a schedule when it comes to spirit. You follow their lead, never the other way around. As I was editing this video for my channel, I was pulled to look up from my desk and look out my window To my astonishment, a beautiful bright red cardinal was sitting outside my window, looking at me. The message I received from being blessed with such a rare beauty was heaven is inside you. Simply look inward and you will know all and understand all that heaven has to say to you. Every soul's journey to earth is important to their own growth. Even though your loved one has departed from this world does not mean their learning is completed. They will continue on with their growth and enlightenment of learning, just as you will. Believe in your true home and allow it to direct you when things seem dark. There is always a light waiting for you at the end of every trial and every challenge. We will be waiting to embrace you in love once you feel your learning is completed from this world.